the fluid was not coming out fast, and it was a slow trickle. And then I thought I had aimed my drain can correctly based on that. However, when I opened the radiator cap on the reservoir, it went pouring. Didn't realize that I was doing other things, and it just started pouring all over the floor. So, good morning and welcome to Grime Time, where I do dumb things in my garage so you don't. Behind me is Project Quick Flip, our 1989 Porsche 944 Turbo, otherwise known as the 951. Car only has 36,000 miles. However, there's a lot of deferred maintenance on the car. So before I even take a drive in this car, we're going to replace the timing belt, the balance shaft belt, the water pump, and then we'll get to other things as it goes. But those are the critical path items. And so I'm going to take you through a daily process in this series. Let me take you through what I completed on Monday, November 17th. There's dozens of videos out there on the 944 and how to remove things. However, there's certain nuances to the 951 Turbo that are not mentioned in those videos. So I want to take you through those. So the first thing I had to do on this is the struts that hold the hood up were shot. And I'm going to need all the access I can, and I didn't want to have to use a broomstick or strut rod in the front. So the easiest solution was to just put new struts in before I even got started on anything Monday morning. And that's a pretty easy job once you understand how the clips work. It's a matter of taking a flat-bladed screwdriver and moving the metal clip just forward so you can get the clip onto the ball. And then once it's on there, you use a flat-bladed screwdriver and push the clip over, and it's secure. On the top side where it meets the hood, there's a pin that goes through it. It's a mild steel pin that goes through the hole to hold that. So about a half an hour job. And once I had those in, now the hood supports itself nice and high, and I have clear access to it. You'll see I also have the car supported on my quick jack. That's to give me access underneath. I'll get to that in a minute. Then I moved on to removing the components on the top side of the engine and the bottom side to give me access to the belts. Before removing anything else, I disconnected the negative ground of the battery and put a microfiber towel under that and the cable. In order to get access to the water pump, timing belt, balance shaft belt, you need to remove a lot of components. That's the case with any 944, but particularly with the 944 Turbo. So the first thing I removed was the air box. And that's, now, on either side here are these cap screws that fit into a bracket that actually slides out. This bolt here, as is the case with many of these Porsche things, there's an insert, injection molded into the nuts actually in here. And a lot of times over the years, if these screws or nuts become seized, they just turn. And that was the case on one of them. So luckily I pulled that out. You also saw I left the MAF sensor attached to it. So I had to disconnect that from the intake hose leading into the intake manifold. That's actually a two-piece structure. The snorkel fits into the driver's side of the fender. That's held in with two screws. Now that I've done that, I replaced the air filter, so I know that that's done. Next up, on here on the upper side are these various hoses for the radiator and the intercooler. So the intercooler sends cold air into the intake, a more dense charge into the intake manifold. So you have to remove those two hoses. And then, well, these three hoses, I can't even remember what this one's for, but that's why I have the PET drawing. And you're going to see throughout my videos in this series, I'm going to refer to the PET drawing in the lower left. Now, this one here in my hand is what Porsche calls in the PET drawing the bracket. And I guess because it has these two bolts that bolt on either side of the fenders. But what's interesting is that it's really a manifold to me. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and coolant. This is actually a coolant tube that diverts coolant. This one, I believe, is to the actual reservoir where the radiator cap is, and then the various other locations. And then The air box, those 2 bolts I mentioned earlier, that's what they fit into this. So you remove the air box and the MAF sensor, and then you take this out after you take out the other hoses. The next thing I removed is the distributor cap. Joe helped me with that. If you're familiar with these Porsche distributor caps, you have to, they're Phillips screws connected to a J-hook, and you have to, a spring-loaded J-hook, and you have to push them in, apply pressure, and turn them, and then the cap will come out. We needed clearance for the next part that I took. So once I had all of this piping, the air box out, and the distributor cap, that gave me access to what Porsche refers to as the scoop in the PET drawing, but in effect, it's the 2 fans. So fans are held on with, I believe, 6 13-millimeter screws, and you have to disconnect the wiring here for both fans. Next up was the engine protective tray, and this is held on with a variety of screws and 10-millimeter bolts. This one's a little greasy. We got to figure out where there's a minor oil leak. That'll be in a future episode. So that was a pretty easy removal. And then finally is this bumper belly pan that fits on the front of the car. Variety of screws, as you see. I like to use Ziploc bags and identify them so I have them attached. So with all of those components removed, I proceeded to drain the coolant. Well, when I drained the coolant, I forgot to open the radiator cap at the top first. You want to do that because when the coolant starts to open, when I took the blue plastic drain plug out of the bottom of the radiator, the fluid was not coming out fast, and it was a slow trickle. And then I thought I had aimed my rain can correctly based on that. However, when I opened the radiator cap on the reservoir, it went pouring. Didn't realize that I was doing other things, and it just started pouring all over the floor. That's my first order of business, is to sweep up all the kitty litter that absorbed that overnight, and I've got a nice clean area. That's what we completed in day 1. My next, for today, my goal is, after I clean up all the kitty litter, is to take out the power steering and air conditioning belts, take off the crankshaft pulley, and we're going to have to remove the starter to lock the engine and find top dead center. So if you enjoyed this content, at a minimum, press the like button. And if you find this content interesting, I encourage you to subscribe. I'm at 5,100 subscribers as I can do this video. It costs you nothing to subscribe, and it alerts you every time I update not only this car, but the 4 other projects we have going on. So thank you for watching. Stay safe, get out there and drive, and we'll see you soon.